Sisters marrying my ex and my parents forced me to go. I showed up, exposed everything, and dropped the truth bomb. I'm a 30-year-old woman and I'm facing a situation that's been weighing on me for a while now. I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong, and after reading so many posts on here, I find myself reaching out to strangers for an objective opinion. That's how desperate I am to get some clarity. This is about my ex-boyfriend, my sister, and my parents, and I know it doesn't sound like it will lead anywhere good, and honestly, you'd be right to think that. Let me start by giving you some background on my past relationship. When I first met Ethan, my ex, who's 32, I truly thought he was the one. He had this charm about him. He was funny, supportive. At least that's what I thought at the time. We dated for 3 years, and for most of that, I believed he was as invested in our relationship as I was. But looking back now, I can see that I ignored a lot of red flags. He was always so secretive with his phone, and whenever I tried to talk to him about it, he'd just say it was work stuff. Then there were times when he'd disappear for hours without any explanation. Whenever I brought it up, he somehow managed to turn it around on me, making me feel guilty for even questioning him. I thought it was just my insecurities getting the best of me. After all, Ethan always knew just what to say to make me feel special when I doubted him. Things really started falling apart at a family barbecue my parents hosted. My younger sister, Olivia, who's 27, insisted that I come because it had been a while since I joined a family gathering. She said it would mean a lot to her, so I agreed. Even though I wasn't thrilled at one point, I realized that Ethan had been gone for a while. As I wandered around the house looking for him, I ended up in the guest room, and there they were. Ethan and Olivia together. It was like the ground disappeared beneath me. My mind went blank as they scrambled to explain themselves. Ethan stumbled over his words, saying that he and Olivia had connected and couldn't deny their feelings anymore. Olivia, of course, said they didn't mean to hurt me but that they were soulmates. Soulmates. That was the justification they used to explain the months of deceit. I felt physically ill. I stormed out, drove home in tears. Honestly, it's a miracle I didn't get into an accident because I could barely see through my tears. What hurt even more, though, was my family's reaction when I told them. My parents just brushed it off, saying it was just young love. They said things like, "These things happen," and that Ethan and Olivia had simply fallen for each other. It was as if my heartbreak was nothing compared to the blossoming love story between the two of them. I ended up cutting contact with both Ethan and Olivia, and I distanced myself from my family. Over the years, I rebuilt my life, focused on my career, made new friends, and eventually found happiness again. But out of nowhere, I got an invitation to Ethan and Olivia's wedding. At first, it felt like a slap in the face. There was no way I was going to attend and watch them pledge their eternal love after what they did to me. But my parents had other plans. They called, texted, and even showed up at my apartment unannounced, begging me to go. They said that my absence would cause gossip and make the family look bad. They told me it was time to let go of the past and take the high road. At one point, my mom sat me down and said, "We're not asking you to forgive them, but we're asking you to be the bigger person. Family is more important than holding on to grudges." I won't lie, that hit me. I barely spoke to my parents, but I didn't want to cut them out completely. I realized that moving on meant showing that I had healed. I didn't see why I had to make it look like I was still bitter when I had already moved on, so I agreed to go to the wedding, but that should have been the end of it. Then Olivia started sending me text after text, most of them gloating about how she won, or how Ethan had always preferred her. I ignored most of them, but then one particular message caught my attention. Olivia, likely drunk, complained about the pressure Ethan's parents were putting on them to prove their worth if they wanted to inherit the family fortune. She bragged about how their wedding was going to seal the deal and secure their place in the family's good graces. Suddenly, everything clicked. Ethan and Olivia weren't just building a life together. They were counting on his inheritance. That realization changed everything for me. I wasn't just some bitter ex who'd been betrayed. I now had the power to expose their hypocrisy. But I didn't want to act out of spite. I wanted closure, not revenge. When I arrived at the wedding, I'll admit, part of me wanted to turn around and leave. The decorations were beautiful, and everyone seemed so happy. But it all felt fake to me. I found my seat and kept my head down, planning to just get through the day. But then my parents came up to me and asked me to give a speech. They said it would mean a lot to Olivia if I showed my support in front of everyone. I wanted to refuse, because it was humiliating for me to do. But my mom wouldn't stop begging, and my dad started talking to me in his irritated tone, which made me crack. I knew what they were after. They just wanted me to play along so the family's reputation would stay intact. But I hated that they expected me to play along, knowing that I was being humiliated by the very couple they wanted me to praise. I agreed again, though, out of obligation and guilt. As I stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, I felt this overwhelming mix of anger and hurt. Just as I was about to give a dull, generic speech, something unexpected happened. A wave of clarity washed over me. I started by talking about love, how it can come from places we least expect, and how trust and honesty are essential in any relationship. Then, I pivoted to my own story. I shared with everyone how I had once been in a relationship with Ethan, how I had believed he was my future, and how that future was stolen from me by someone I had trusted. I described the pain of discovering Ethan and Olivia's betrayal, and how that moment shattered me. But I didn't stop there. I spoke about how, despite their betrayal, it had taught me some incredibly valuable lessons. About resilience, about self-respect. I addressed Ethan's parents directly, thanking them for their kindness during the time I was with Ethan. I told them how much their support had meant to me, and how I hoped they knew the full truth of the choices Ethan and Olivia had made. I never raised my voice or tried to sound angry. I kept my tone calm, measured, letting the truth stand on its own. When I finished, there was a stunned silence. Ethan's parents looked furious, and they stormed out almost immediately. I knew my words had struck a nerve. The rest of the wedding felt like a blur. Olivia came up to me, absolutely screaming about how I had ruined her big day. Ethan tried to pull her away, but she kept yelling. My parents were mortified, but I didn't care. I had said what I needed to say, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of closure. Later, I found out through a mutual acquaintance that Ethan's parents were considering disinheriting him after my speech. They said they couldn't support someone who had acted so dishonorably. Olivia and Ethan's perfect future might have crumbled in an instant, and they were blaming me for it. Olivia's texts started flooding in soon after, accusing me of ruining her life. She called me selfish, petty, and vindictive, but I didn't respond. I had no regrets about what I'd done. The truth had to come out, and if it caused problems for them, that was their problem, not mine. But now, a week later, Olivia hasn't stopped messaging me, telling me what a horrible person I am. It's starting to get to me, and I'm wondering if I really am the asshole for ruining my sister's wedding by exposing her relationship. Update 1. Hey guys, this post has gotten so much more attention than I was expecting. Thank you to everyone who's given me new perspectives on how to approach this situation. I feel like I need to clarify something, though, about why I agreed to go to the wedding when I could have just avoided it all and cut off contact with my family entirely. When I decided to go, I did it because I wanted to show my family that I wasn't this bitter, vengeful person they seemed to think I was. I went because I wanted closure, and maybe on some level I also wanted to prove to myself that I was stronger than the pain they had caused me. But if I'm being honest, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that wanted to make a statement. They had humiliated me, and I felt like no one ever truly understood how much it hurt to be betrayed by both Ethan and Olivia, two people I had trusted more than anyone. Looking back, I can admit my speech was petty. It wasn't just about telling the truth. It was also about making sure that Ethan and Olivia felt the sting of what they did to me. But I don't feel sorry for it. When I was hurting, no one stood up for me. No one told Ethan and Olivia they were wrong. My family swept it under the rug, and Ethan's parents, while kind to me during our relationship, never stepped in to hold him accountable. So no, I don't regret what I said. For once, I got to tell my side of the story. The fallout was immediate. Ethan's parents were furious. From what I've gathered through mutual acquaintances, they had always prided themselves on being a respectable family. When they heard how Ethan and Olivia's relationship started, they were deeply embarrassed. Ethan's mom especially was livid. She believed Ethan had lied to her about the timeline of his relationships with Olivia and me. They couldn't even consider leaving their inheritance to someone who, in their eyes, lacked morals and integrity. It wasn't just about my speech. It was about Ethan's pattern of dishonesty and the disgrace he brought to their family name, so they cut him and Olivia off completely. A few weeks later, I found out about Ethan and Olivia's financial struggles. One of our mutual friends reached out to me to share the gossip. Apparently, without Ethan's parents' financial support, they were struggling to maintain the lavish lifestyle they had planned. The wedding itself had been a huge expense, and they had been counting on the inheritance to cover it. Now, with no financial safety net, they were scrambling. Olivia, in particular, was devastated. She'd always dreamed of a cushy life, and now she was stuck trying to manage their mounting debts. Then the messages started flooding in from Olivia. At first, they were full of anger and accusations. She blamed me entirely for their situation, saying I had destroyed their future. Olivia didn't hold back. She told me I was selfish and vindictive, that I had ruined her happiness out of spite. But then her tone shifted. She started demanding that I publicly apologize to Ethan's parents, telling them that I had exaggerated the situation and misrepresented their relationship in my speech. Olivia even suggested I beg Ethan's parents to reconsider their decision to cut them off. The audacity. She wanted me to humiliate myself again just to fix a mess that she and Ethan had created. It was almost laughable. After everything they had done, the betrayal, the pain they had caused me, she had the nerve to ask me to clean up their disaster. I refused outright. I told her I wasn't responsible for their choices or the consequences. If Ethan's parents had decided to cut them off, it wasn't because of my speech. It was because of their actions. They had built their relationship on lies and betrayal, and now they were facing the fallout from those decisions. It wasn't my job to save them. I didn't respond to any more of Olivia's messages after that. I blocked her and moved on. For years, I had carried the weight of their betrayal, but now, for the first time, it felt like I had finally let it go. Their struggles were their own, and I had no interest in getting involved. I felt at peace finally. It's been a week since I blocked Olivia, and honestly it feels great. Nobody else has reached out to me since, and hopefully I'm not jinxing it by saying that. Anyway, I have a lot more important things to focus on than petty drama, so I'm going to do my best to stay out of it. If I get dragged back in, I'll make sure to update you guys. Until then, adios. Update 2. Okay, I jinxed it in my last update. I know, rookie mistake, but it's been a few weeks since I last updated, and enough has happened for me to share another update. Here goes. After blocking Olivia and thinking I could move on, I thought the drama was behind me. But of course, my family couldn't leave it alone. A week and a half after I ignored Olivia's demands, my parents reached out, insisting that we all sit down and fix things. According to them, my speech had created an unnecessary rift in the family, and it was up to me to make things right. They were upset that Olivia and Ethan were struggling and felt I should take responsibility for what they saw as my part in their difficulties. It eventually got so bad that I agreed to meet them to set things straight once and for all. I decided to meet them at our local cafe. During the meeting, my parents painted me as petty and vindictive. They accused me of holding on to grudges and said my speech at the wedding had been uncalled for. They kept saying I needed to be the bigger person. To show some maturity, they reminded me that family comes first and that Olivia was my sister. No matter what had happened in the past, to them, my actions weren't just about hurting Ethan and Olivia. They claimed I had embarrassed the entire family. They insisted I reach out to Ethan's parents and apologize for escalating things, which they believed might help smooth things over for Olivia and Ethan. Their arguments didn't surprise me, but they still stung. They glossed over what Ethan and Olivia had done to me. It was as if I was supposed to forget all of that because time heals all wounds. They never once acknowledged how much pain I had gone through because of their betrayal. Instead, it was all about Olivia's future, Olivia's happiness, and Olivia's relationship. Once again, it felt like my feelings didn't matter. No one was standing up for me. No one was thinking about me. I knew I had to stand my ground, and that's exactly what I did. I told them that I wasn't going to apologize for telling the truth. I reminded them that Olivia and Ethan's relationship began with betrayal, and if they were facing consequences now, it wasn't my fault. I pointed out how they had never held Olivia accountable for what she did to me, and how they always expected me to be the one to make peace. I told them I was done being the one to clean up everyone else's messes. If Olivia and Ethan were struggling, that was on them to figure out, not me. My parents tried to reason with me, saying Olivia, Ethan, and I were young, and that these things happen at that age. But I wasn't having any of it. I got so frustrated that I got up and stormed out of the cafe. I turned my phone off because I didn't want to hear anything more from them. But even though I was sure about my stance, I started feeling guilty. I know I did nothing wrong. A lot of you pointed that out. And a lot of you also told me I needed to stop getting guilt into things. Trust me, I'm working on it. But I don't know what happened that day. My parents' words kept echoing in my mind, making me feel heartless, like maybe I had gone too far with my speech. I started wondering if there was more to the story with Ethan's parents. Had my speech really been the reason they disinherited Ethan? Or was there something else I didn't know? Curiosity and guilt got the better of me. So I decided to reach out to Ethan's parents. I wanted to hear their side of the story directly. When I contacted them, Ethan's parents were surprisingly open to talking to me. They said they had been upset with Ethan long before the wedding, but hadn't acted on it until my speech gave them clarity. They explained that Ethan had lied to them about several things during our relationship. For example, he had exaggerated his career achievements and pretended he was financially stable when he was actually relying on them for support. They had been suspicious of his behavior for a while. But Olivia didn't want to confront Ethan without solid proof. My speech at the wedding had been the tipping point. It confirmed everything they had suspected all along. Ethan was dishonest and manipulative. They told me they had been especially disappointed by how Ethan and Olivia's relationship had started, as it showed a complete lack of integrity. Ethan's mom said they felt betrayed because they had trusted him to be better than that. They made it clear that my speech didn't cause them to cut Ethan off. It simply validated the concerns they had been harboring for years. Their decision was based on years of observing Ethan's behavior, not just the revelations at the wedding. What they said next hit me in a way I didn't expect. They expressed gratitude for my honesty. They said they admired how I handled myself at the wedding, even though it must have been incredibly difficult for me. Hearing that felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. For so long, I had felt like no one understood how much Ethan and Olivia's betrayal had hurt me, but knowing that Ethan's parents saw the truth and appreciated my perspective made me feel validated in a way my own family never had. After that conversation, I felt more at peace. I realized that my speech wasn't the root cause of Ethan and Olivia's problems. Their struggles were the result of their own choices and actions, not mine. I had carried so much guilt for years, but now I saw I'd done nothing wrong by standing up for myself. If anything, I had given Ethan's parents the clarity they needed to make a decision they'd been avoiding for too long. Of course, my family didn't see it that way. They kept pushing me to reconcile with Olivia, but I stopped letting their opinions affect me. I'd spent enough time feeling guilty for things that weren't my fault. Ethan and Olivia's situation was theirs to deal with, and I had no intention of getting involved anymore. For once, I was putting myself first. That's it for this update. I've blocked my parents everywhere too, and I think I'm going full no contact with them. When it comes to that, I don't know when or if I'll ever change my mind. Right now, I'm just going to focus on myself and moving forward. If anything happens, I'll be sure to come back and update you all. Thank you for all the advice and love. You have no idea how much it means to me. Update 3. Once a cheater, always a cheater. That's a lesson I learned the hard way, and one I'll never forget. It's been 4 months since my last update, and for 3 of those months, things had been blissfully quiet. Olivia and my parents stopped reaching out. They finally accepted that I wasn't going to be the peacemaker or fix the mess Olivia and Ethan had made of their lives. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was at peace. I wasn't consumed by guilt or anger, and I could finally focus on myself and my happiness. But of course, nothing stays peaceful forever. At the start of this month, I received a text from an unknown number. It didn't take long to figure out it was Olivia. She wasted no time informing me that she had annulled her marriage to Ethan. She said she couldn't do it anymore and felt I deserved to know. I didn't respond. I had already made it clear I didn't want her in my life, and I wasn't about to reopen that door. But Olivia wasn't done. Over the next few days, she sent a barrage of texts, gradually revealing what led to her decision to leave Ethan. According to Olivia, the financial struggles they'd faced after Ethan was cut off had taken a huge toll on their marriage. Ethan, who had always relied on his parents' money, couldn't handle the pressure of living on a tight budget. Instead of working through their issues, he turned to cheating, not just with one woman, but with several. Olivia claimed she discovered he'd been unfaithful with multiple women, including 2 of her bridesmaids. Without me asking, she explained how she found out. She said she had started noticing Ethan's behavior becoming erratic, staying out late, coming up with flimsy excuses for his absences, being secretive with his phone. At first, she brushed it off, thinking it was just the stress getting to him. But one night, she received a message from one of her bridesmaids who confessed to having a brief fling with Ethan. The bridesmaid claimed she hadn't known how to tell Olivia but felt guilty about keeping it a secret. That confession opened the floodgates. Olivia confronted Ethan, who initially denied everything, but eventually admitted to cheating, not just with the bridesmaid who came clean, but with another bridesmaid and several other women as well. As I read Olivia's texts, I felt so many things. Part of me felt vindicated. Ethan had finally shown Olivia his true colors, and she was experiencing the same betrayal I had endured all those years ago. It felt like karma had come full circle. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for her. I knew how devastating it was to be cheated on, to have the person you trusted most completely shatter your world. But that pity didn't last long. Olivia might have been betrayed by Ethan, but she had betrayed me first. She made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. Olivia didn't stop at just explaining what happened. She started asking me for advice. She said she didn't know how to cope with the betrayal and wanted to know how I had managed to move on after Ethan cheated on me. She kept trying to connect with me, saying we had both been hurt by the same man and that we should support each other. But what struck me most was what she didn't say. Not once in all her messages did she apologize for what she had done to me. She never acknowledged the pain she had caused by betraying me with Ethan. Instead, she acted like we were in the same boat, as if her suffering somehow erased the past. I didn't respond to any of her messages. I had already given her more time and energy than she deserved. After a few days of nonstop texts, I blocked her again. This time I felt no guilt. If anything, I felt relieved. I felt relieved that I didn't have to deal with Olivia anymore, and relieved that karma had finally come full circle. Ethan had shown Olivia exactly who he was, and now she had no one to blame but herself for ignoring all the red flags. As far as I'm concerned, she's reaping what she sowed. Looking back, I have no regrets about how I handled the situation. Whether it was at the wedding or in the months that followed, telling the truth wasn't petty. It was necessary. Ethan and Olivia's relationship was built on lies and betrayal, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I've spent too much of my life trying to please people who don't deserve my kindness, and I'm done with that. For the first time in years, I'm focusing on myself and my happiness, and it feels amazing. I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and let karma take care of the rest. So that's it from me. I'm finally going to move on and put all of this behind me. It's sad that I've lost my family and all of this, but after thinking it through, I realize it's time for me to go to therapy. I need to get all of this properly sorted out because I feel like there's a lot of emotions I've been avoiding dealing with. Also, I'm seriously so grateful to every single one of you who replied and even privately messaged me to check in on me. You guys were the best, and honestly, you made this whole experience a lot easier to deal with. Alright then, bye-bye.